Actually, the first thing on the agenda is an executive session, so Chair will entertain a motion.
I'll move to find that premature public knowledge regarding a labor relations agreement with employees would clearly place the town at a substantial disadvantage, and further move that we enter executive session to discuss a labor relations agreement with employees under Title I, Section 313A1B, and security, cybersecurity, or emergency response measures, the disclosure of which would jeopardize public safety under Title I, Section 313A10, and invite Fire Chief Aaron Collette, Human Resources Director Susan Leonard, to join the discussion regarding a labor relations agreement with employees, and Town Manager Eric Wells to join both discussions.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
There are no nays. We are in executive session. So we are back on the record, executive session ending at 7:43. No substantive decisions were made in that session.
Todd, your mic.
Okay.
And also, I think Mike Isham has joined, so
Oh, yeah.
record.
Hello, Michael. So.
Can you hear us, Mike? Can't hear us.
That's okay.
Oh,
Hello, Michael. So, Mike, we are out of executive session, back on the record. No substantive decisions were made. And we're going to go on to the next item on the agenda. That would be the minutes from February 3rd, 2026. So is there a motion?
Move to approve, subject to modification.
And I've lost them on my computer. So is there a second?
Second.
second.
So going through, I know there are 4 pages. I remember that. So,
It's just 3 pages.
well, and then the 4th one will be easy to approve. All right, so going through page 1. Page 2.
I think in our short-term rental ordinance discussion, there was an important point that was missed. We said a couple times that the intent was to make it, the intent of the proposed ordinance is to make it less attractive for investors to purchase a home as a short-term rental, not to put undue restrictions on a current owner's use of their home. So I would like that added to the record. And secondly, it kind of feels like it should have an action, like the select board encourage the planning commission to continue work on the ordinance.
I feel if we're going to continue the discussion with the planning commission, should this be brought up to a vote by the select board?
There's nothing to vote on yet. It essentially took a straw poll at the last meeting to encourage the planning commission to come up with a potential short-term rental ordinance, which we would then vote on much farther down.
I think,
Yeah. But we would eventually.
I think we're putting the cart before the horse.
Well, I want to see what they come up with, and then we'll decide whether we like it or not, is the idea. But no decisions have been made or need to be made as a procedural point, so.
I was going to say, I believe the discussion was directing the manager's office to work on that draft with the departments and the thing.
Okay.
So since we're changing the minutes, you'd like it to say that the action was that we directed you to work with? Okay.
Yeah, because ordinances come out of the manager's office. I had chatted with the departments about their feedback on it, not much. I did get some feedback from our attorney. They have some out of the system.
Okay, good.
But the minutes be modified to indicate that the town manager is going to be reviewing the issue, or something to that effect.
What I was looking for was that the select board, at the end, they came to us asking, should we continue working on it? And I was just looking for some indication that, yes, the select board said, yes, continue to work on it. But if it's better to say, directed the town manager to continue work on it, rather than the planning commission, that I'm okay with that.
Okay, all right. That would bring us to page 3. subject to those modifications, all those in favor
What
say
happened to
aye.
page 4?
I know, I know. Well, I got it back up
Oh,
on
you
my
got it back
computer.
up, see, now it's no page
Yeah.
4.
So all those in favor with the modifications that have been mentioned, say aye.
Aye.
There are no nays.
Aye.
Mike says aye.
Yep.
Minutes are approved.
Thank-
Next agenda item would be public comment. This would be a moment for anybody here or participating online to make a comment. If you could limit it to 2 minutes, if you do have a comment, it could be about something that is on the agenda, but it doesn't have to be. If it is something that's on the agenda, you may want to wait, but again, you don't have to. So is there anybody in the audience who wishes to make a public comment? Okay. Eric, is there anybody online?
Nope.
That would bring us to the Champlain Water District update. Good evening.
Evening, everybody.
Hey,
So, the floor is yours.
Thank you for having me. Joe Duncan, General Manager, Champlain Water District. Always good to come. I thank Eric and the board for having us give an update each year. So similar to you, we've just finished our budget process, and we, per our charter, we have a annual meeting on the first Tuesday of every April, and that would be April 7th this go-round. And that's when we will be bringing forward our budget, as well as election of our typical officers, clerks, and moderators, and all that fun stuff. And so it's an opportunity to let you know what the budget world looks like for Champlain Water District, as well as give you an update on where we are going and what we are seeing. So for those of you that don't know us, we are your wholesale water provider. We provide water out of our plant that draws out of Shelburne Bay, pumps it up to our facility on Queen City Park Road in South Burlington, and then it makes its way all over the county from Shelburne up to Milton, out to Jericho, and making it to Williston along the way. So Williston uses about 0.8 million gallons a day. We produce about 9.4 million gallons a day. So Williston's somewhere in that 8-9% water usage. So for us, we, similar to everyone else, we're working through trying to be proactive with what we do with our finances, so that we are being more proactive with replacing things and dealing with things that are aging out. So we try to keep a robust capital investments, as well as doing annual improvements. We also have a goal of trying to be in the 3 to 6% increase each year for our board. This year we have a 5.5% increase. Our wholesale water rate, the rate at which we sell water to all of our municipalities, including Williston, currently is 3.011 per 1,000 gallons. It's basically about $3 per 1,000 gallons. That is going up to 3.179 per 1,000 as proposed in our current budget that gets voted on at our April meeting. That's about a 5.5% increase. A lot of that is tied to salaries, which we are a union shop. We negotiated salaries this year, and in the wake of trying to retain employees, we worked through a contract to keep that in place. So a portion of that is salaries, the other portion is health insurances, and then the other portion is just the cost of doing business with buying chemicals, and also just equipment purchases going up, everything. A lot of the stuff that we've seen has gone up in the sort of the 10 to 11% market for equipment and supplies. So we've been able to kind of balance a lot of that increase by dialing back some things, but also not sacrificing things that are important to us, which we think are important to our users. There was a world that I think Williston is aware of, and they've taken the approach that CWD has, at least the public works folks that we work with, of knowing that infrastructure, if you let it go and ignore it, it will fail, and when it fails, you will pay large amounts of money to fix it. So our goal is to proactively move over and fix some things as we go along. We have a robust tank management program. There's 3 tanks that we own within Williston that are in a program where we're either painting them on a frequent cycle, or we're getting in there to inspect them to make sure there's no issues structurally with them, so that we don't get to a point where there's a major surprise and we have to spend a lot of money to fix it. So that's kind of the world in which we live. The other interesting thing for us is we are all, we're just a per 1,000 gallon rate basis. And so it's very interesting to look. There's some data in there about water usage historically in the town of Williston, as well as historically across all of the district. And as you can kind of see, especially when you look at sort of the Williston stuff, the numbers are up and down in water sales, and that is really, you can go back and look at temperature data and weather patterns, and you can see either a hot summer where people use a lot of water, or you can see a cool summer where people are not. We tend to be pretty flat outside the shoulder. Once you get outside the summer and past the shoulder seasons, we tend to be pretty flat across the board. It's kind of where you can see usage is sort of landing as a norm for what people use on a daily basis, and then you can see the seasonal fluctuations on each end. The other interesting piece is that Essex Junction has a very large user. That user is Global Foundries. We have historically seen major fluctuations in their usage as well, as you may know from Williston having a portion of the Global Foundries site at one point in time with their development. And so they have trended down significantly, so that has been a bit of an issue, although they are stabilizing, and it looks like they might be coming up a little bit, but the data is only a couple months old, so that does not necessarily make a trend. But from some of the data that you can see there, it's very interesting that Chittenden County, as what I consider a growing community, growing area, our sales base, pretty much is flatlined at about almost like 6 million gallons a day, even though Chittenden County has grown, and as you've seen in Williston, is a growing community, but yet your water sales don't necessarily match up with that growth. So interesting dynamics. I think somewhere down the line that might take a turn, but we do live in a state where we are blessed to have people who are very conservation minded. So that definitely is great for the environment. A little tough on the water sales world, but you also have to protect the lake. So that's kind of my big picture information on stuff. I'm happy to go into any details or questions you may have, either specific to Champlain Water District or specific to how we service Williston.
Questions from the board?
I have two, well, they're both kind of little picky questions, I'm just curious.
Yeah.
What's different, so when you say there's wholesale and retail, is retail like not a municipality, is that?
So retail for us is we actually provide contract operation services.
Oh.
And that's our retail side of the,
Okay.
back in the 70s when Champlain Water District formed, there was a concept that perhaps Champlain Water District could also operate the distribution systems, because the model for us is we make the water, we sell it to the local municipalities like Williston, South Burlington, and then they run their pipes and their infrastructure to get to the homeowners. And that distribution system is run by either the municipality, but in South Burlington's case and in Colchester's case, in the village of Jericho, we actually provide distribution operators. That's our retail arm.
Well, this wasn't one of my questions, so I still get my other one, but
Yeah.
is that, I was trying to figure out why municipalities had different rates per 1,000 gallons, and I thought it was infrastructure, but I think you
Yeah.
said something different.
Yeah, it is. The difference is some of it is infrastructure and how they've invested in it over time, whether there's investments as part of the operating budget, or whether it's money through capital or debt that they are setting aside. So each municipality buys water at the same rate for us, but then depending upon what they're doing with their own local distribution system, Town of Williston as an example, if you have a certain number of staff and you're certain how much you pay them and how much you put aside for repairs, that would be different than what the city of Essex Junction or the town of Essex might do, and depending upon what your expenditures are.
So this is a combined,
It's a combined,
oh,
yes.
that
Yep.
makes sense.
Yep. And it's all on a per thousand. So what we do is, when you look at that figure is like, some people sell, they may sell water at a base rate plus usage as compared to us, which is just all usage. And so what we do is we average out what someone who, the typical usage of 65,700 gallons a year is what a typical home does, 2.4 people in a home these days. So that's the average. And so we basically calculate what everybody would pay for 65,700 gallons of water in the year and then average that out to a per 1,000 gallon. That's how it gets calculated.
Okay, well, if anybody else is dying to ask a question, I do have one more.
Go ahead.
Is there an interesting story behind the electrical, was it electric that's going up 14%?
Yeah, there is. It's GMP's rates.
Really?
Yeah, yes. Yeah, if you, two pieces to that is, well, as you know, in the municipal world, you have to forecast the day where you are going to be a year from now. And so that 14% is a combination of catch up.
Yeah.
But a lot of it is a big hit in this year's increase that they're anticipating in 26. I think they're looking at a 10% increase for that. And unfortunately for us, everything's power. We pump out of the lake, we pump it up to our plant. When it leaves the plant, we pump it again. So basically everything gets pumped from about sea level, is where we draw water out of the lake, and we finish about 900 feet in Jericho. So basically we move that water up to an elevation. Once they're in the tanks, they can flow by gravity, but then you gotta flow back up again. So we have electricity as a major cost to us. So any increase.
I mean, I think it's kind of a, especially in the Northeast, and nationally, there's a big upswing in electric costs with demand, AI demands and things like that, but it's like you're kind of used to it, oh, if my electric bill goes up, but when your water bill goes up, because.
Yeah, it's a cause and effect.
Yeah.
There are some interesting things, and I know you have had a busy time, but we are actually trying to do some unique things with Green Mountain Power to try and help them and avoid some of the larger costs that are out there. One of their major costs is having to buy electricity during peak demand periods. So if they have to go to the national grid to buy more, and that's, so that's why they'll have usage curbing that they're sort of looking for. Flexible load management is what they call it. And so our world is we used to pump everything at night because there was a time when they wanted you to use electricity cheaper at night. So there was nobody else using it. It was a good time for you to take advantage of it, so they give you a lower rate. The mindset is shifting a little bit, where if in the middle of the summer when everybody is using electricity to turn on AC to cool the place, if they can start to shed loads in other areas, that eliminates the rise above the level where they have to buy from the national grid, because when they buy from the national grid, it's like exponentially larger than what they would. So what we've been doing is they ask us to join in on this flexible load management, where we shift our pumping. It's cheaper for them to give us a lower rate during the day to fill all our tanks during the day, so that we basically get to a point where we're filled up before 4 o'clock, and then we kind of rest our plant so that we're not part of that peak load that occurs from that 4 to 8 p.m. at night when people are home and kind of getting reacclimated during the day. So anyways, we're trying to find those kind of places where we can hopefully then help ourselves as well.
Yeah, great, thank you.
Other questions?
You mentioned the water sales, I believe it's being flat over the past few years. Is that the actual, or is that the purchased water? What's the difference, and has the difference changed over the past few years? Do we have smaller homes with less bedrooms making a difference
Yeah.
in water sales?
We look at, there's two things that we look at. Is we have what we call it water sales, so that's what the town of Williston say will buy from us. But the town of Williston may actually lose some of that water in what they sell to customers, because whether it goes out of hydrant or there's water loss or whatever. So, but what we look at is the total amount of water that comes out of our plant and goes to places. And what it is there is definitely a curbing, even though I think what happens is this is why I think somewhere it will shift. I think we're still in that world of where people have a conservation mindset. The new buildings that are going in are so water conservation friendly with new appliances, more, compared to where we were 10 years ago, water fixtures, dishwashers, washing machines, they're all using less. So as people are renovating their houses and or moving from old housing to new construction, you are getting that less water use. I think you also have businesses that have a mindset of trying to minimize their costs wherever they can, so whether they're recycling, reusing, offsetting water use. And so I think somewhere we're in that world where we have to kind of get to the point where that conservation levels out through new construction and new appliances, and then growth will kind of take off from there. But that's where we're living at the moment.
Well, I also see that 73% of your debt is operations. It's a lot of that is wages and salaries. You have 8% current capital contribution. Is that your capital bond debt? And you see that increasing?
The capital contribution is straight money, straight cash into our capital reserve. That we try to spend. We try to spend most of that in a given year we try to maintain a $2 million budget, a $2 million balance in our capital, because that's basically our 3-month cash flow. So if we were to, for whatever reason, lose cash, we have that there. So 8% that we put in, we tend to spend that over the course of the year. We do have a separate line item for debt, and that is noted in the on the first page with bond reimbursement. So there's that's debt service at 13%. So that debt service is outside of that 70% of operations.
Okay, thank you. I was looking at expenditures, interest on long-term debt also.
Yes.
I'm not an accountant, so I just don't understand things real well.
So there's the way we handle it is both debt service, which should include also the interest for we have a long-term maintenance contract that's in there as well, and that's some of our tanks and filters that we do maintain outside of debt, but within our operating budget. But yes, you are correct. The operations is a heavy cost to us at 70%, and like I said, a lot of it happens to be salaries and insurances and just administrative pieces, and then the rest is that's about 30% of our budget, and then the rest is made up of all the other parts of actually physically running the operations.
Thank you.
Similar to our numbers.
What's that?
About 70% of us is personnel.
Right.
Yeah, it's the as much as there is a trend of things heading towards automation, people power is still the primary resource. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Have a great evening.
Thanks for tolerating our questions.
If you have any other questions, please feel free to reach out to her. If anybody ever wants a tour,
Okay.
thank you.
That'll bring us to library capital campaign progress update.
Ooh.
Good evening. I think we have some good news to share. Carla is our capital campaign chair in addition to being a trustee, and we have an all-volunteer committee of which Bonnie and I staff, but our volunteers have raised more than $650,000 in pledges from more than 24 Williston and St. George residents, and what we've passed out to you is what we give to people when we're talking with them about making a pledge. So that's our case statement that we produced in-house. The volunteers worked on that, and I printed them out and stapled them with a long stapler, which was fun. There's also a pledge form if you want to make a pledge. And I say pledge because it's dependent on the bond passing, of course. So we're not taking any actual money in, but we are taking that form in with people pledging. So I think that the $650,000, again, it's actually over 30 folks have committed. reflects a strong local support from your neighbors who believe in the vital role of our public library. I don't know if you saw it, but we also put up a sign in front of the library this morning that has a stack of books in place of a thermometer, and that was made by Chris Stewart and Dr. Elizabeth Davidson and her daughter Elena, and there's a little Ticonderoga pencil that also goes up as we make more money in pledges. So I'm just going to share a little bit about what our donors have told us. One shared that they felt that libraries were fundamental to our democracy. Another, and this is in the conversations that we have when we go and we talk with folks, said that they felt like this expansion would help Williston realize its full potential as a community. Of course, this is just the start of our fundraising effort. If the bond does pass, we're going to continue to fundraise throughout 2026, and all of the fundraising is going to reduce the impact on taxpayers. So this isn't on top of the bond. This will reduce the amount of that bond. I think that's important to make that point. I also just wanted to talk about the ways that libraries aren't just, environmentally responsible by sharing resources, but they're also very fiscally responsible. So if you look at the return on investment for our library, for every dollar that we spend right now in operating expenses, we return about $2.79 in value to the community. As an example, last year we checked out 56,000 children's books. If parents were to go out and buy those books, that number alone would be more than what we spend in our operating expenses. And so then you have like the books for adults, the community room, the Wi-Fi usage. All of that adds up to about $2.80 for every dollar that you put into operating expenses. So a library is a very good investment for a community to make. It pays back to put the money into that. Let's see. You have the case statement. You know that the bond vote is coming up. The only other thing I wanted to point out was kind of the breakdown of that bond vote. I don't know how many folks in the community know that, but about half of that money would go towards the construction and furnishing of the addition itself. So that's pegged at about $7.7 million. $2.8 million is actually to renovate the current space and make it more energy efficient. It was built before a lot of the energy standards that we think of as, well, what's building code now was building code. About $1.7 million is for site work, $1 million is for the village green improvements, and $1.2 million of that budget, of that total of $14.45, is contingency funds. And so the reason I point that out is that there's a lot that's built into this budget that isn't actually the cost of the new building. The cost of the new building is actually about half of what the total bond is. And there's inflationary expectations built into the budget and over $1 million of contingency funds. So I just want to be clear, there's a lot built in that's going to make sure this project doesn't go over budget, and that the fundraising that Carla's spearheading is actually making an effort to bring the bond costs down. So I just wanted to try to clarify the specifics of the financials. And did you want to add anything at all?
Well, the only thing I want to add is that with the fundraising is important, of course, but I think it's an opportunity. It's always an opportunity to just reach out to community members. And so that's kind of what we phrase it as. We'd like to talk to you about the library expansion and see if you have any questions. And, oh, by the way, if you'd like to donate, then that's great. But it has been really interesting just talking to the community. And yesterday, well, I guess Saturday, I was at the basketball games that they were having, the K through 2 basketball, taking me back to the days. So I don't think my son played basketball till 2nd grade. But anyway, just being there and saying, do you have any questions? And catching the parents kind of when it's kind of a nice time where they're not too harried. And to just spread the word about what the library expansion means, have the models there, and I think we should probably set up before town meeting day too. I mean, and have them be in the lobby with our stuff too. Because just to get the word out about what it is. And one of the things that I've been doing is, kind of tying it back into the scoping study and talking about the fact that it's going to be a lot of community space. There's going to be community space, and that's a benefit for everyone. Some people don't use the library, but everyone can benefit by the community spaces that are going to be there. And I think that's a big draw for a lot of people. And so, we'll see. Hopefully, we'll get a lot of people to vote yes.
I saw somewhere, I can't find it now, but there was something it was like you had a goal of getting 250,000 of pledges by November and 500 by December or something, so 650, you made your goal.
Yeah, we have kind of a timeline, and our goal by the bond vote is actually half of the total amount we're trying to raise. So we're reaching for 750,000 by March 2nd, and we are progressing along well with that early phase of the campaign. And this is kind of our public launch. We're going to have we put the sign out in front of the library, so we're starting to let people know that we're asking for money a little more widely. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you all for
Awesome.
all of
Thank
your
you.
hard work.
Yes.
and
Thank you.
dedication.
It's a labor of love.
There was a discussion on Front Porch Forum about library use of the space, and I actually thought that was a really beneficial discussion, kind of in showing the need for this space. So thank you for responding to that, number one, but also for, highlighting really, how widely used the community space is and how small it is currently.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So that would bring us to Community Justice Center Regional Transition Update. Eric?
Yeah, so just kind of general updates where this process is. I've got a summary memo in your packet, some points from it. And actually, this morning, my day started with a steering committee meeting for this, and we had a transition team meeting after that this month. So just to remind folks listening in the select board, this is a transition of delivering pre-charge diversion services for our Community Justice Center. On July 1st, there's going to be one grant from the Attorney General's office that will go to the city of Burlington. Currently, there are 4 separate grants for 4 separate centers around the county. Act 180 passed last year, outlined this transition in funding structure and service delivery to one per county. So we've been working since last summer and fall on planning this. So there's a steering committee I serve on with my fellow managers from South Burlington and Essex, along with Willa Farrell from the Attorney General's office and Rachel Jolly, who's the director of the Burlington CJC. This is part of a broader transition team that we stood up that includes law enforcement and current CJC staff and other stakeholders we've brought in for discussion as we go. So the big lift over the last month was community listening sessions about this, engaging current volunteers. We held a session in South Burlington, Essex. I attended both with our staff, and told me the exit survey was, and all the volunteers who completed that survey and attended, 100% said they want to continue in volunteering. So that was good feedback, and I think a lot of it was kind of clearing up any misinformation out there that really what we're asking is for this service delivery to be very similar to how people are experiencing it today. It's really a hub and spoke model for the volunteers themselves to be able to continue to volunteer in Williston. That was really, it's been profound throughout the process, and every community keeping that local connection. That's the intent moving forward. It's getting to the operational phase and the money phase. So part of it is there's going to be grants made in each of Vermont's counties for this service. 2 counties currently have nothing. So of the pool of money the Attorney General's office has for next fiscal year, that's going to need to also be going to Rutland or Orleans County today. So our Chittenden County grant awards anticipate to be a little bit lower than it currently is. They asked for a little bit of inflation increase in their budget. Collectively between us, South Burlington, and Essex Junction, there's about $100,000 in additional funding there. So we've been talking about.
I'm sorry, Eric, but the 100,000 might have to go to fill the hole, is what you're saying, right? That's going to be caused by pulling money out of Chittenden County?
Not necessarily. With Burlington's approach for the model, they're looking at 2.5 full-time staff to cover the pre-charge diversion piece, and then have additional funds from municipalities to be able to provide other county-wide services. And what we've been looking at and talking with advisory boards about is beyond just that pre-charge, kind of the focus areas that have emerged are victim services and parallel justice program, expanding that. Essex does that right now. Safe driver program, a lot of junior operators have been successful with that program as an alternative to losing multiple points in their license, that they would lose their license at that point. I know our departments, our programs work with a lot of folks with that. And then also continuing community-based referrals as well. So part of this is figuring out over the next year what that demand is countywide. So in discussions with them today, we feel standing this up to have that capacity will be something to serve our communities moving forward. But at a baseline for the pre-charge diversion component, their staffing model with the funding they're anticipating, and they feel like that's going to be an adequate approach. I think we'll continue to see, we're going to continue to have staffing coverage in our location in the police department for now. We'll probably have staffing here 3 to 4 days a week. We'll have panels here. Figuring out that schedule, we'll probably try to keep it consistent with what we're doing today. But all those nuts and bolts items will need to get determined really over the next couple of months. And for the city of Burlington, who needs to hire the staff, they're looking at around an April posting timeline. They need to get things approved through their processes with their board of finance, their city council. The hope is to have those positions then filled for that July transition. We're also talking about a service wind down in this current model and trying to dictate when referrals start going to the city of Burlington versus going through the process here. So it's very fluid. That's the best case scenario. You're fully staffed up. Volunteers who are most want to continue, get an orientation and a training about how this new model is going to work, any requirements for the city of Burlington for that, and then we can establish those transitions. It all sounds easy. There's still a lot to do.
It does not.
No.
The formality for the select board that we started to talk about at our steering committee level is a memorandum of understanding with the city of Burlington. They will be providing services for Williston, provided embedded staff, the city of Burlington, and our department with our community. So we're starting to work on what that MOU looks like, and that's something that you'll probably have to consider as we get into April, it sounds like. So we're working with communities, the AG's office, all of our community to look at it.
Because that MOU would look the same for each town.
It would be uniform.
Yeah.
Part of the questions we have to determine too are we have these host sites right now. We have other communities in our catchment areas, and this service needs to be statewide as well. Richmond and Heinsberg started providing some funding in recent years at our request. For those communities, there's some communities in Chittenden County that haven't ever provided any money towards this, but have received services and will continue to receive pre-charge services. I was trying to right-size some of those elements, and also for those services beyond pre-charge, like the victim services, the safe driving. For Williston and the other towns moving forward, determining we continue to make a contribution, what's that going towards? The position the managers have articulated, they should be going towards those additional services, not towards the pre-charge at the station.
Right.
We understand that this transition year, there might need to be a little bit of extra to help that as they kind of figure out the staffing profile and everything, but there'll need to be an ongoing conversation moving forward about what that fiscal allocation goes towards and what amounts.
See a potential interesting situation if our police department is, so I guess how this works, they go to Burlington and say, these are the cases we think would fit into the pre-charge, and then,
We would have a uniform case types that are of referral. So currently, kind of each community, each police department and center has their own profile of that. And ultimately, the state's attorney's office could get a case that goes there directly and not restored in the process, and they can kick it back. Is kind of the structure right now. We would have kind of a uniform guidance on cases for referrals to Burlington as a central intake model, and then those cases would still be heard locally in the community where those where they heard with the victim parties. We don't want people to have to travel to another community. There's been a lot of talk about people going to Burlington. That happened. But I think as this evolves too, I think other times too, that we have people who live in other communities that maybe commit a retail theft in Williston, the restorative process for that, and maybe maybe there's thought that they have better access to get to another CJC as opposed to ours. Maybe there's some opportunity.
But the gate for the amount of cases that we could, what's the term, deal with is really our volunteers here, right? I mean, you see a situation where we have 15 cases that we think would be appropriate, and Burlington says, no, you can only do 9?
No, yeah, I think the intent would always be kind of what we have for was being referred locally to hear those locally. But, as we kind of scale this for the county, I think part of it would be where the staff spends their time too. But,
Right.
The chiefs are meeting about this as well, and we want to have a uniform training and expectation for officers, so we are getting referrals consistently that follow the methodology involved here. Kind of looking at it as a collective overall for our criminal justice system in Champlain County, using this as our tool for
It would just be odd if at some point we're restrained on this like primary mission of the CJC, and yet we're also doing the junior license thing with our own money. I can see that being a little bit complicated.
Oh, I see.
I think once the details are finalized, I think certainly would like to see information dispersed in Front Porch Forum and the Observer and things. I know that a lot of community members have been very concerned about retaining CJC locally, what that would look like. We heard from a lot of folks last year at Town Meeting Day, actually, about the CJC. And so I think knowing some of these pieces will certainly, hopefully, put some people, mind at ease, that they're gonna, the services will look very similar.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Really excited about the team from Williston and the new CJC model. I believe they're poised to help by leading. We have a really strong team. I hope that as this whole goes to a county system, that we don't see more paid staff versus more volunteers doing the work from Burlington. I'm hoping that we don't see potentially we've heard about some domestic assault cases being referred to the CJC. There's been a lot of stories in the WCAX news recently about pre-charge services. So I think that we're going to have to wait and see what happens with a lot of that. I think that what the select board next year is, we're just going to be tasked with a new type of budget. Do you think the budget's going to go up or down next year?
And for the CJC itself, it'll be, I think, mainly a discussion about additional services beyond recharge and what's a good cost share structure for that for Williston and the county. But overall, we would look. My thought is that the pre-charge, kind of the baseline work, we need to have adequate state funding that's set for all.
Other questions for Eric?
We'll say I've been staffing the advisory board with Mandy, and they've been a great group to work with, really engaged, and they provide me some good feedback.
Okay, great. No formal action is considered, so that would bring us to the next item, which is the manager's report.
A couple things I'll highlight here. You've got your quarterly report, for your local option tax Q2 report, and this is the first quarter where we have that new 75-25 revenue split with the new legislation. So we've collected just around 2.2 million in revenue for the first two quarters of FY26. And that's about 53% of the amount budgeted. So hopefully that continues to trend where we want it to. Be interesting to see where this lands with that new split. I've been speaking with Jeff Carr, local economist, to do an analysis for us on our local option tax. I ran into him last week again. So I'll be getting him this data, probably looking at a springtime analysis. And I also want to have a couple quarters after this new split for him to take a look at. So my hope is you'll get breakdown of that over the summer leading into our FY '28 budget process as we kind of think about how to forecast that. A couple legislative update items. I shared this over email, but just to share at the meeting, there's some interesting discussion going on with the taxation of the local option. I'm calling it a municipal service fee, I think I read today in the VLCT report. But, so this started with a discussion from delegation from Brattleboro asking Senate Transportation if local option tax could be expanded to gasoline with an intent where that revenue could be reinvested in community transportation facilities. I know at the statewide level, I think the governor's budget is decreasing local programs to help municipalities with public works infrastructure assistance by, I think, $7 million or so. So part of that factors in here. So there wasn't a lot of reaction in the legislature to move forward with a local option tax on gasoline, but Chairman Westman of Senate Transportation last week introduced this concept of, for communities like Williston that have a local option sales tax, to be able to have a local vote to add a second 1% on top of that 1% that it was today. That second 1% would then be divided up from a revenue standpoint, 50% retention for the town, 40% to the statewide transportation fund to help municipalities out with those needs, and 10% to the pilot fund. This is just introduced at committee by the chair as a way to really start conversation, as I understand it. But if this moves along in the legislature, and something like this becomes an option for Williston, it's quite a significant amount of revenue we're talking about, even the 50% number there. And this proposal removes the administrative fee per return that currently assessed $5.56 gets paid to the state on top of the retention on that the state has for this. So something to keep an eye on. Anyway, I'll flag for the board.
So the second %, that's not on fuel, that's just on like everything that it's currently applies to?
Yep, exactly. The sales, rooms and meals, and
Oh, okay.
alcohol. And I was like, very lead on that. Oh, question. We're not going to sell that much gasoline.
That's a lot of gasoline.
Now, I think this is a really sad tax. I think it's a bad idea. This is going to affect more low-income people in Vermont who cannot afford to buy electric cars. Just another reason why Vermonters are the most taxed people in the entire country. You know? I think it's a sad thing that we're just sitting here, talking about how we're going to get more tax dollars out of our citizens. I think that should be shut down. Stop.
Well, I was going to say, before I started figuring out how to spend all that money, I did have to remind myself we have a governor that says no new taxes, so it's I won't start spending it yet.
All right,
But
hold on.
I'm glad we've got a governor that at least says affordability is the largest problem affecting Vermonters today. It's easy to see why.
Across parties, but yep.
We all talk about affordability, but boy, we don't walk the talk. That's for certain.
Well,
Well, I also
Keep
think that
spending.
we do have with the transportation funding is in big trouble, and people say they don't want higher taxes, but when the roads and bridges start crumbling, you'll hear about it. So I think that the state and us locally, I mean, we had a $200,000 request from Bruce to add money for paving, and we did not include that. So I think we do have a transportation infrastructure problem that will need to be addressed somehow. And everyone doesn't want higher taxes, but they don't really want to lose anything they already have either. So it's a tricky thing. I'm kind of with you, Mike. Adding a whole 1% on top it does hurt Williston people because we do our shopping in Williston. So if it was going to
Put the tax on electric cars.
it's not going to go anywhere in that form of. I read somewhere say that Stowe was already just considering going to 2%.
Charter change, and
Ah,
was doing it by charter, but there's no state law that allows 2% right now.
no.
That becomes that strategy becomes a forced conversation for legislature to have around that, because it wouldn't jive with the statute right now. But then this occurred too, so I think it makes me see, in this session right now, there's a lot of feedback from municipalities about there's a lot of stuff we need to do, and the funding is only so far it can go. What should the state be thinking about for this? It's a tough conversation.
Yeah.
Comes down to wants versus needs.
So does that bring us to poultry?
Yeah, so I flagged this too, and
Eric, I saw this in here, I was really, really glad this wasn't an agenda item.
yeah, you're gonna tell the select board. But if you don't get it, VLCT has a weekly legislative update you can subscribe to, so when I pull this together, I kind of scour through that, and pull some items from the board, but this is a discussion in the Senate about restricting local zoning, municipal zoning, from regulating, raising, feeding, or managing livestock, excluding roosters, for use by a owner's household or non-paying guest, provided the land base is sufficient for appropriate nutrient waste management. This would inhibit municipal regulation over animals and animal shelters on homesteads. So this goes back to zoning around chickens that we discussed in the past.
I simply do not understand the passion. I just don't. Where it's like, look, and I'm sure the people who would be in favor of this would be people who would say, well, it's about health, that you have better natural eggs that you can eat or some such thing. But, if we're also talking about local control and, select boards who have a better understanding of what people do and do not want in their town. But then there are people, I know we're a small state, so I don't say this like it's, on another planet or something, but people are sitting in Montpelier who are saying, hey, I got an idea. Let's make it so that towns don't have a choice, but that they have to have backyard chickens. Are we good with that? Okay, well, no roosters. I'm not being crazy here. I just don't understand. I don't understand the logic, and I don't understand the passion, but keep us posted on that.
Yeah.
What problem it's trying to solve.
Yeah.
I have suggested several times that if we talked about chickens at all of our meetings, we would get a better attendance, but
Yeah, but,
Meanwhile, all you chicken lovers out there who are watching right now,
yeah.
email Ted with your
Go right ahead.
chicken-related
Right ahead.
concerns.
chicken-related concerns.
I'll take it.
And I saw come through today in the report, we talk about the pilot fund that local option tax have gone to. There's been talk, I think in House Appropriations, to utilize that money towards a couple different items. I can forward it tomorrow, read it again, but what has been advocacy from the LCT is to give some of that money back to municipalities that collected it and not appropriate it for other statewide uses. Oh, it was for the statewide reappraisal. So, to be continued.
So take it from us and spread it across the state.
Yeah.
Okay.
2 weeks till town meeting.
That would bring us to other business. Is there any other business?
Sarah Mason passed on a couple of renewals to me Friday here about, these are things on a year cycle. So the first is, there's a tobacco renewal for, it's Maple Tree Place, I don't know if I'm pronouncing the name right. It's Aliham Incorporated, or Maple Tree Place. They have a 1-year tobacco license and a tobacco substitute endorsement. That's up for renewal. We need a motion to approve that. We haven't had any complaints or concerns about the license for the last year.
Reluctantly move, we approve.
Reluctantly second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 There are no nays, it carries.
Second's an outdoor consumption permit for Casa Grande over Harvest, Marshall Avenue. Same thing, this renewal of the license they had last year for their outdoor seating consumption, no restrictions.
The outdoor permit is on a separate schedule than the indoor permit?
Yeah.
Ooh, that
they,
sounds-
submitted a different.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 There There are no nays. It carries. Okay. That would bring us to final thoughts on items from this meeting. Are there any?
Must I say, Mike? This is your last regular select board meeting.
Oh, hey.
It's been a pleasure having you.
Thank ya. I had to make sure I get everything I want to say in all in one meeting.
Well, thank you, Mike. Yeah, thank you for your service.
Welcome.
You're
Thank you.
missed, so. Okay. Any other thoughts?
But you can still tune in, and you can
Yep.
come visit us, too.
That's true.
So-
Yep.
I might haunt you.
If there are no other thoughts, then I will declare that we are adjourned.
Thank you.